these animals was ever wasted. Now over here to your left, you can see an example of a life-size full bull moose. Sorry. And this one was harvested in the White Mountains, which is just north of Fairbanks. It has a trophy-sized set of antlers. And in Alaska, trophy size is considered to be over 6 feet if you'd like a demonstration. I think Haley wants to demonstrate. Now watch out for moose. Sorry, they don't pay us enough to grunt in public. And then peel all of the larger white spruce trees and lay them one on top of each other for the walls. And then the gaps in between the logs were chinked with moss, and this is to windproof the cabin. And then this roof, if you look underneath here, you can see that it's actually made from younger spruce trees that were also peeled, laid flat across the top. Then it was covered with a layer of birch bark. Sod was placed on top of the birch bark, and then as you can see, that grass was grown. And that grass actually, the roots of it helps hold the roof together, and also it soaks up any excess rainwater that doesn't fall off the edge of the roof. And roofs like this can last about 5 to 7 years, so they do have to be replaced, and you never cut the grass on there. And that's because the more grass there is, the more insulation. So a roof like this will actually keep this cabin nice and cool on these hot summer days, and then also very warm during the winter time. Now, after the tour, you guys are welcome to go inside of here. You'll see that the furniture is also made from resources found off of the land, except for a recycled 55-gallon oil drum, which was converted into a warm wood-burning stove. But nowadays, if you guys were to travel around Alaska to villages or St. Paul Island, where my dad is from, you'll see many cabins similar to this, but they'll have modern conveniences like running water, electricity, and if you're really lucky, even the internet. How many of you think you could rough it in a cabin like this during January? And cache is the French word for storage. That's what it's used for. It's been built up on stilts to keep the contents off of the ground. And I say large because it stretches 7 feet from nose to tail. And commonly, cross sections from the back of this wolf would be taken and used for the outer portion of the Parker ruff, like we saw at our last stop. This next one is the Wolverine, and Wolverine are very ferocious, so we call them Doyon. Can you guys say Doyon? Doyon. That means chief in Athabascan, and that's because the Wolverine is the chief of the forest. Even my grandma says that if a Wolverine and a black bear cross paths, the black bear will step aside to let the Wolverine pass by. Now this next one is the lynx. Lynx are closely related to the bobcat, and they're actually very similar, except the lynx have small, tiny, pointy ears. They also have a cute, stubby little tail. And the lynx have wider paws. That'll help them bound across the snow while it's chasing after dinner. Do you ladies recognize this next one? Yes, this is the mink. Now, it might come as a surprise to you, but the mink were not highly valued by the Athabascans, and that's because their hair is so short, so they're not very warm. But of course, after contact with Westerners, these became very high in demand. So we like to call these our money pelt. And then this one is definitely my favorite for these two. This is the marten, and marten are used to make a warm winter cap. It takes 3 marten to make 1 cap, 1 for each side, 1 across the top. And we do like to leave the tails on for decoration. And there's a secret to these tails. Would you guys like to hear it? If you have 1 tail on your hat, it does mean you're single. 2 tails means you're married. And 3 tails means you're married, but you wish you were single. And then these little guys are the ermine. And when they're in their winter coat like this, they'll be white. But in the summertime, they will camouflage into a chocolatey brown. But while they're in their winter coat like this, we do have a playful nickname for them. Anyone here from Texas? Well, welcome to the big state of Alaska, where we call these our Texas-sized polar bears. No hard feelings. And then these little guys are the muskrat. And these are pretty small, but they're also very soft and warm. And this is what's commonly used to make the main body of a parka. That last parka we saw took almost 40 muskrat to make that one warm parka. And then these last three are very abundant here in the interior. These are the foxes. This one is a cross fox, and it's a cross between the red and the silver fox. And then this is a red fox. And these two can be found in the same litter. And this beautiful white fox is the Arctic fox. And right up here, I already told you about this one earlier at our first stop. This is the beaver pelt. And as you can see, it's been stretched out. Beaver meat is actually a delicacy among us Athabascans. But just like fish head soup, I've never tried it. And that's because it's customary to always honor our elders by letting them eat first. And at potlatches, which is a celebration of life, it's traditional for girls my age to be serving food to all of the elders and then everyone else. So by the time I get done serving food, all that's left is potato salad. But I assure you, if you guys come back in about 50 years, I'll tell you how it tastes. But it has been a pleasure sharing with you guys a little bit about my Native culture. Hopefully you could tell that I'm very proud to be Alaskan Native. And hopefully you've been left with the understanding that the Athabascans were very talented and resourceful. And then of course today as a younger generation, the only challenge we face is just living in a Western world while still trying to preserve our Native heritage. And during the winter time I do go to school, but I also learned traditional skills when I was younger and still now today from my mother and my grandmother so that someday I'll have skills to pass down to the younger generation. But it's been a pleasure sharing with you. You now have about 20 minutes, maybe 25 to roam around, take pictures, ask questions. I'll be right here to answer any questions. Directly down that pathway and to your right is where the dog yard is. That's where Ava Linder will be to answer any questions you might have. Down back that pathway towards the boat is where our second stop was. That's where someone will be modeling that parka for the last 30 minutes. And then over down that pathway and to your right is where the post office is. That's where Dave Munson will be signing the granite book. When you hear the boat whistle blow, that's your cue to immediately board the boat. If not, we'll pick you up tomorrow. In my native language, Anabasi Gana. Thank you, my friends.
That's pretty clever, isn't it? Fish wheel. I guess I'd heard of it before, but I don't remember.
Oh.